Welcome to my channel Study Time. So today we will do part 2 question answers of The Dear Departed by Stanley Houghton. Question number 7 in your book is answer the following questions in detail. Question 1 here is bring out the irony in the title of the play. The title of the play is The Dear Departed. The Dear Departed means the death of a dear one. In the story, it is seen that neither the person who was presumed to be dead was in reality dead, nor was he considered dear by her daughters. तो ऐसा कोई प्यार उनसे नहीं था, वो उनके लिए कोई dear नहीं था क्योंकि उन्हें कोई खास फर्क नहीं पड़ा उसके जाने पे. Since no one in the family had any affection for grandfather, the term seems ironic in this instance. Nobody cared for him. They are all happy that he is gone. Nobody is eager to even go and meet him, despite the fact that they discuss everything from morning attire to what he has left behind. तो सबको यही सब बातों की ज़्यादा अहमियत थी उस वक्त कि वो क्या क्या छोड़ कर गया है, उसे वो कैसे बांटेंगे, और they were not even bothered कि उसे जाकर एक बार देख ही लें. Everyone agrees to have tea while talking about the obituary that needs to be published in the newspaper, but no one seems to be missing their grandfather or have tears in their eyes. They are all quiet and professional, and their business appears to be what they will each receive as a result of the elderly man's passing. He was in no manner dear to his daughters or to their husbands. Since her father moved into Mrs. Slater's house 3 years ago, Mrs. Jordan had not even paid him a visit. The irony is that the title represents something quite opposite to the plot of the story. Question: how does the spat between his daughters lead to grandfather discovering the truth? The spat happened. Spat is a short argument, usually about something that is not important. And the spat happened when Mr. and Mrs. Jordan asked grandfather on whether he remembered anything while sleeping. Mrs. Slater, however, prevented Mrs. Jordan from coaxing grandfather. In fact, Mrs. Slater was scared that he would remember that she and Mr. Slater had shifted the bureau and the clock from his room. Mrs. Slater's worst fears come true when grandfather realized that the bureau and the clock was shifted to the sitting room. This led to a full-fledged verbal exchange between the two sisters. वो आपस में बहस करने लगती हैं. Mrs. Jordan told the grandfather that Mr. and Mrs. Slater shifted the bureau and the clock from his room to the sitting room because they thought he was dead, and they were shifting things out of his room so he couldn't lay a claim on them. After discovering the truth, grandfather became very bitter because he felt that his daughters didn't even wait for his funeral to start dividing things between them. Question number 3. Compare and contrast Henry's character with that of his wife. Support your answer with evidence from the play. See, Henry was a stooping, heavy man with a droopy mustache. In fact, his sister-in-law described him well when she says, "Are you such a poor creature that you must do every dirty thing she tells you?" Henry was a simple man who followed all his wife's instructions. तो जैसे उसकी wife कहती थी वैसे ही वो करता था. She asked him to wear grandfather's slippers. He wears them even if they were a size smaller to him. उसे ठीक से आ भी नहीं रहे थे. Unlike his wife, he is attached to the grandfather. He is not very happy with his wife shifting the bureau and the clock from his room. He felt that the sisters should amicably divide things between them. He wished the grandfather's obituary in the newspaper should be nice and poetic. He tried to stop the two sisters from quarreling but failed miserably. Henry was a straightforward man, unlike his wife who was a manipulative lady. तो हेनरी का कैरेक्टर काफी कुछ डिफरेंट था उसकी वाइफ से. There are some extra questions here which we are going to discuss. Justify the title The Dear Departed. See, the play revolves around the father. Fathers are loved by their children, but here he is not dear or truly loved by them, as they are more interested in dividing up his belongings and are upset when they are informed that he is getting married and that they will not inherit. The father has not departed. They presume he is dead without checking or calling a doctor. Question: why did the two sisters fight with each other? Grandfather decided in his new will he would leave all his money and things to the person he would be living with when he died. This led to another spat between the daughters. Since both of them were very keen to get his money and things, they wanted that he should stay with them. तो just पैसे के लिए वो अपने father को अपने साथ रखना चाहती थी. Number 3 is, why is Mrs. Amelia Slater so edgy and nervous in the beginning of the play? See, in the beginning of the play, Mrs. Amelia Slater is very edgy and nervous. Actually, she wants to steal grandfather's bureau as she likes it very much, but she wants to shift it to her room before the Jordans come. And for that, she has to do it quickly. She doesn't want the Jordans to know about her theft. वो नहीं चाहती थी कि उन्हें पता चले, because otherwise जॉर्डन भी जो थी उसकी सिस्टर थी मिसेस जॉर्डन, वो भी चाहेगी कि वो ब्यूरो उसे मिले. Question here is, briefly describe the character of Victoria in The Dear Departed. See, in The Dear Departed, Victoria is Mr. and Mrs. Slater's daughter, and Victoria, the granddaughter, has been depicted as a compassionate and loving character who loved her grandfather and was very upset at the materialistic behavior of the elders after so-called death of her grandfather. In what ways is The Dear Departed satirical? Comment on the nature of human beings. See, satirical also means ironic or sarcastic. The Dear Departed brings out children's greed. They are more interested in what they will inherit and try to grab a lion's share. The play shows how children sometimes care more for what they will receive from their parents than for their welfare and happiness. In the grandfather's will lead to another spat between his two daughters. Why? Grandfather decided that in his new will he would leave all his money and things to the person he would be living with when he died. So this led to another spat between the daughters. Since both of them were very keen to get his money and things, they wanted that he should stay with them. तो दोनों में quarrel हो जाता है. They started fighting in between कि उसके फादर किसके साथ रहेंगे. तो दोनों ही रखना चाहती हैं now because they want his money and things. Question here is, why was the family surprised or shocked to see grandfather away? The family was shocked to see the grandfather alive as all of them wanted to share his belongings, which they would not be able to do then. तो काफी कुछ plan हो चुका था, and all of a sudden the grandfather awakes and the family is not happy with it. They were shocked. Question here is, how is hypocrisy of the two sisters brought out in the play The Dear Departed? The two sisters in the play lived by double standards. Each of them tried to surpass the other. Amelia tried to steal the bureau before Elizabeth's arrival, whereas Elizabeth was late because she wanted to reach there in the morning dress, and she was in no hurry to reach her father's house. Even after hearing the news of his death, both of them laid more stress on getting materialistic gains from Abel's death, as Amelia wanted to steal the clock and bureau, whereas Elizabeth wanted grandfather's watch. Their hypocrisy reached its height when at tea they discussed about newspaper announcement even before confirming his death, but when Abel came down, both of them were shocked. Further, they got a terrible blow when their father announced his marriage to Mrs. Shorrocks and the change of his will. Thank you so much. If you like the video, kindly like, share and subscribe. Thank you.